Há mais de 20 anos espetaculares, o octógono é o maior campo de provas para o MMA. Um lugar onde lutas monumentais e finalizações inesquecíveis transformam lutadores em lendas. Agora, para celebrar o maior evento da história do esporte, prepare-se para a contagem regressiva dos maiores lutadores do UFC de todos os tempos. Este é o UFC 200 melhores lutadores de todos os tempos. Praticamente desde o primeiro dia em que a porta do octógono foi aberta, existe um debate intenso sobre quais lutadores são dignos de serem considerados os melhores peso por peso. E a cada ano contundente que se passa, essa tarefa se torna cada vez mais difícil. Portanto, em honra ao histórico UFC 200, um comitê de jornalistas, comentaristas e outros especialistas deram seus votos, compilados aqui em uma lista apresentada para sua consideração dos 200 melhores lutadores do UFC de todos os tempos. E agora que os primeiros 140 lutadores foram revelados, apresentamos o número 60, um dos wrestlers colegiais mais dominantes da história da NCAA. The Monster se tornaria o 5º campeão peso pesado do UFC.
I don't know how he got the name The Monster, but probably because he is one whenever he was fighting. You know, anything that had to do with competition, Kevin would go out there and just be hell for you.
It would be hard to find a person more fired up and full of energy than Kevin Randleman.
And you see him leaping up in the air, you know he's a physical specimen. You're gonna have some trouble.
Randleman, a two-time NCAA Division I wrestling champion, knows all about the takedown.
Great wrestling, great punch. Remember him when he fought Mikhail Krokop? Big knockout.
And then right after that, he faced Fedor Emelianenko. Like, it was not enough already.
Still had a lot to offer the mixed martial arts community. He left us too soon.
Aos 44 anos de idade, Randleman faleceu inesperadamente devido a complicações de pneumonia. Mas seu legado extraordinário ainda vive. Número 59. Uma campeã peso-pena do Strikeforce, invicta, amplamente conhecida como a mais intimidadora na história do MMA feminino.
What can you say about Cris Cyborg? She's one of the most dominant females in the sport. She goes in there and pretty much gets finished every single time.
Fierce, aggressive, scary.
Cyborg is indisputably the best women's featherweight fighter in the history of the sport.
She goes as soon as the bell rings, she's going. I remember her always being explosive, always coming in.
Ridiculously strong, really tough, just comes forward, has that pressure style.
She's like Mike Tyson and women. She's going there to knock you out.
Everybody we put in front of her just gets destroyed.
Delivers a knee, another right hand, right hook. Oh, they got him.
Cris Cyborg crushes people. The signature win, of course, Gina Carano.
That was a huge day for women's MMA. One of the biggest female fights of all time.
That was a spectacular moment, but listen, her entire career is a highlight reel.
Cris Cyborg waited a long time to get her chance to fight in the UFC. And when she stepped into the octagon at UFC 198, she made that long journey worthwhile. To come home and fight in front of her home fans and to win like that in front of 45,000 fans was just a very special moment.
Número 58. Icônico japonês artista de nocautes que dominou a divisão peso leve do Pride com uma espetacular força nos socos.
Gomi literally translates in Japanese to trash, although Takanori Gomi has been anything but garbage in the ring.
Gomi is landing haymakers.
This is a guy who, as a kid in Japan, failed in high school and ended up being disowned by his father. And that's a life that really could have went the wrong way, but instead he became a standout wrestler. And when he started training in MMA, he found out that he had just some lightning quick hands.
Takanori Gomi was the best lightweight fighter on the planet for several years, and I was most impressed when he beat Hayato Sakurai. For a lot of people in the mixed martial arts world, this was a super fight.
Gomi is unstoppable.
one of the Pride's best fighters of all time. That fireball kid came to the UFC world lightning quick, awkward styles, hands down, and willing to wing some punches.
Cerebral striker who has great counters and fights everywhere he needs to fight to play into his style.
He throws 100% into every shot.
The fans still love him even this late in his career, and what's not to love about the guy?
Número 57. Holandês campeão de kickboxing, cujos golpes poderosos lhe renderam vitórias sobre 6 ex-campeões do UFC.
Overeem is a chiseled 6'4" kickboxing champion.
Outstanding striker, Alistair Overeem.
The thing that will surprise you is that he is incredibly fast for his size.
Him and I spar all the time, you know. We play around and kick, and you know, he knows how to control. The dude's a gentle giant.
He's one of those guys that's very cerebral, very technical. He has had a lot of experience.
Devastating knees to the head.
I've never seen somebody make Brock Lesnar crumble the way that he did.
Huge knees to the body of Lesnar. He's hurt back, and again to the midsection. It is all over.
Everybody wrote him off, and everybody was thinking he's not going to beat Dos Santos. Then when he knocked out Dos Santos, I thought, no, this guy has a chance for the title again.
Overeem by TKO.
Número 56. O líder do UFC em bônus de prêmio de performances, que possui mais vitórias por finalização que qualquer outro lutador da era moderna.
Nate Diaz is a tough, non-stop fists in your face all day while he's making fun of you, laughing at you, and pointing at your flaws style of fighter.
He's a true mixed martial artist. He knows how to kick, he knows how to grapple, he knows how to punch.
Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. He is an A-level striker.
He taunts you a lot, you know, he gets in your head, he makes you mess up. He makes you throw big punches, makes you throw big kicks or something dumb, and he'll capitalize on that.
Great boxing, and they're just in your face, talking the entire time.
Well, that Stockton slap, it's the funniest goddamn thing. Can you imagine sitting there punching somebody and just get bitch slapped, you know? Jeez, that's talking about embarrassing.
Nate Diaz has been involved in so many epic fights in the UFC.
He's piled up wins against the likes of Cowboy Cerrone, Gray Maynard, Takanori Gomi, and Jim Miller. Really shocked the world by choking out Conor McGregor in the second round of their fight.
Always ready to fight, you know, take Conor on 10 days notice, able to get it done.
It was the biggest win of his career, and from now on, Nate Diaz is going to be a huge star in the UFC.
Número 55. Prodígio canadense peso meio médio, que se provou quase impossível de ser parado desde que se tornou profissional aos 16 anos de idade.
Roy McDonald started training at a very early age, and he knew he wanted to be a professional mixed martial artist at just 16 years old.
He came up in the shadows of Georges St. Pierre, and he has been thought of as the next in line. That's a lot of pressure to deal with.
A true changing of the guard.
He's the youngest out of all of us, but he has that focus and that drive and that dedication to the sport.
McDonald, Lawler for the belt.
That fight against Robbie Lawler is the greatest title fight in UFC history.
Wild exchanges.
Regardless of him not winning the belt that night,
McDonald pouring it on!
He showed what's inside his chest, and it left people so excited to see him fight again.
Número 54. Dos primeiros lutadores completos do esporte e bicampeão do torneio, cujas conquistas dentro do octógono competem com sua enorme personalidade.
Don Frye is a blood and guts hero from the early days of mixed martial arts.
There is no grappling in this whatsoever.
Brash and rough around the edges, and he didn't give a what anybody said.
A wrestler from Arizona State.
Good takedown by Don Frye.
Don had boxed and added that to his wrestling prowess.
And that is it. Don Frye fought in wars against the top fighters of his era. Shamrock down.
The Takayama fight. They both grabbed each other and they start hitting each other in the face.
One would go, then the other one would go. One would go, the other one would go.
I've never seen a thing like this in my life.
I used to be like, yo, and all of a sudden the first man to drop was Takayama. Boom.
He was a character. He was just, I'm gonna kick your butt. Like, he was just that guy.
A really good guy with that big mustache.
Don Fry wins it.
And Tom Selleck of the UFC.
The epitome of a man's man. The Marlboro Man carries a picture of Don Fry in his shirt pocket.
Número 53. Lutador chamativo que, com seu chute Showtime, chegou à glória do campeonato peso leve e foi o primeiro astro do MMA a aparecer na caixa do cereal Wheaties.
Anthony Pettis, Showtime. I mean, that pretty much sums it up.
Showtime, Anthony Pettis.
You could say he has the best mixed martial arts highlight of all time, Showtime kick.
The last fight of WEC history with maybe the craziest technique we've ever seen.
Unbelievable, I've never seen anything like that.
He had a string of fights there where I literally think he was just incredibly flawless. Most people don't think of Taekwondo now as a practical mixed martial arts. Anthony Pettis came in and changed all that. Went out and executed against Donald Cerrone.
And look at that.
We all know Donald Cerrone. That guy is incredible.
Super flashy guy. Good dude, man. I didn't know how it was gonna work. I did a USO tour with him. And I think we're best friends now. It's crazy.
When he fought Joe Lozon did not even see the head kick coming.
Anthony Pettis is the type of fighter you're accustomed to seeing in movies, right? Most human beings need special effects to do the types of moves he does.
He won the belt. It felt like a dream.
There's the armbar. Beautiful job. He taps.
Especially in our own hometown, Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Número 52. O primeiro campeão peso leve do UFC, conhecido como Liu Evil.
Jens Pulver was one of the pioneers in the sport.
First ever UFC lightweight champion, that would never be taken away from him.
And he beat a guy named BJ Penn. If that doesn't say legend, I don't know what does. In that cage, he was somebody that was evil. Maybe a nice guy out of the street, but when he was in there to knock you out.
Jens Pulver, the big left hand.
At the time, I was real afraid, man. I wouldn't want to fight that dude. He was the first lightweight that could do two things very well, and that was sprawl and brawl.
He carried a division on his shoulders when nobody small was doing it. He opened up the doors for us and allowed a whole generation of small fighters under 155 pounds to be able to fight in the UFC.
Thanks, guys, man.
Número 51. Nativo de Albuquerque, no Novo México, cujo estilo de lutar lhe rendeu dos apelidos mais apropriados da história do UFC.
Carlos Condit, he really is a natural-born killer.
He's a lunatic. There's a couple bolts loose in his head, that's for sure.
I think it's a great nickname, and I actually feel like it fits his personality, and he's intense with what he does, but he doesn't get too emotional about it. He always seems so level-headed.
Nicest, sweetest guy you'll ever meet in your life, and when he flips a switch, he's a very efficient fighting machine.
He's just straight Albuquerque when it comes to the mentality of being a fighter.
When he's got that mean face, you know that he's bringing pain. He's going to be brutal with the attacks.
He's like real long, throws kicks from crazy angles.
Nice combination by Carlos Condit.
I want knees like that, you know. He'll do like flying knees and land them precisely.
Condit with a flying knee.
Número 50. Brasileiro que somou uma das mais longas sequências de vitórias na história do MMA, com 32 lutas sem nenhuma derrota.
Renan Barão came in with a huge hype behind him. In one of the top camps in all of MMA, No Runyao.
When he's starting the fights, you can see on his face, he's very confident.
And not only is he a submission guy and wrestler, but he had some nasty punches and strikes. He's a guy that moves forward and has a lot of offense.
His style is like a killer style, man.
The kid was just running through people at 135.
Tem várias lutas do Barão que foram muito impressionantes. Ele sempre deu tudo de si lá dentro do cage. Mas que ele ganhou no chute rodado, ele encaixou bom chute no rosto e pôde assim vencer a luta.
I thought Eddie Wineland was going to give him a hell of a fight. They were kind of filling each other out.
Look at that spin!
And then Henning Brow just hit him with the spinning back kick that was just insane.
Número 49. O mais jovem campeão peso pesado da história do UFC, que possui habilidades de grappling quase inigualável no MMA.
Vicious. Josh Barnett is vicious. From the way he grinds up against you with his arms and his elbows, and he's constantly trying to hurt you.
The guy that just goes out and grinds and just pushes the pace. And even if he's tired, he'll still keep coming.
A huge elbow for Josh Barnett.
He's one of the most skilled heavyweights. You know, he's one of the better submission wrestlers of the division. You know, his stand-up is right there amongst the best.
This is a guy who started his MMA career in 1997. He's been fighting forever.
And it's over! The new champion, baby-faced assassin! #1 fight in the world, baby!
To watch a guy that actually beat one of my heroes, which was Randy Couture, was just like, oh my gosh.
Número 48. Faixa preta de jiu-jitsu que desenvolveu bom arsenal de golpes e hoje detém a luta mais rápida da história de lutas pelo título peso leve do UFC.
Rafael dos Anjos has looked absolutely spectacular. He's a guy who's shown massive leaps in improvement in technique, in his strength and conditioning, his confidence. His Brazilian jiu-jitsu is at a world-class level. His wrestling is excellent as well.
The biggest thing that makes Rafael dos Anjos dangerous is his well-roundedness.
He is just a monster, both on the ground and standing.
He just kept a constant pressure that was just hard to deal with.
He went out there and just shut him down and pretty much put a beat down on him.
He just wants it, man. He's just one of them guys that really wants it. You can tell he puts the time in. He destroyed Cowboy.
Cowboy is in all kinds of trouble.
That guy's really showed up. Some bitches is the whole package, man. Dominant guy. He's been running through everybody in the 55-pound division.
Número 47. Surfista californiano de 1,90 m que com sua trocação variada e jogo potente de finalizações levou o cinturão no Strike Force e no UFC.
Once Luke Rockhold got comfortable in the UFC octagon, he has responded extremely well.
There is nothing average about Luke Rockhold's game at all. From his striking, to his wrestling, to his grappling, his ability to transition in all the areas in between, he's elite.
That is a big weapon, the power in Rockhold's kicks.
This guy is one of the most gifted human beings you will ever meet. Athleticism in spades.
Luke Rockhold told people for years that he was the best middleweight in the world. He was the Strikeforce middleweight champion. But because he wasn't in the UFC, very few people regarded him as such. Well, he's proven it now.
Just the third man to stop Lyoto Machida.
Pra mim, a luta memorável do Luke Rockhold foi a luta que ele fez contra o Chris Weidman na disputa do cinturão peso médio do UFC.
Rockhold continues to batter Weidman. It is all over. Luke Rockhold.
He has the charisma, he has the look. The surfer boy from Santa Cruz can go a long way to being a star in the organization.
Número 46. Membro da elite da Polícia de Forças Especiais da Croácia, que com seus chutes que encerram lutas, venceu o prestigioso título do Pride Open Weight Grand Prix em 2006.
Prokop was this guy from Croatia. He was a freaking police special forces. He had this amazing high kick that he would knock people out with.
Man, look at that guy kick. His kicks were so powerful, so dangerous.
You want to know what power is like? Watch Prokop waylay a head kick into someone.
Watching him, my first fight ever watching him was against Igor Wojciechowski and dropped with a left head kick, and I was like, amazing.
The most dangerous thing about Mirko, his body kick. He would kick that thing and it looked like their right ribs would go ahead and swap places with their left for a second. He kicked them so hard, I swear. I don't know why I never saw somebody's kidney at least pop out of their mouth and go back in for just a split second.
Número 45. Faixa preta de jiu-jitsu que com seu boxe preciso e incansáveis agressões verbais sobrecarrega seus adversários há mais de uma década.
Nick Diaz, Stockton slap originator.
Tough, scrappy, in your face.
Sticking up his middle finger and bucking the law and saying this and that.
Where you at, George? Where you at?
You never know what's going to happen. He's unpredictable.
When Nick Diaz smells blood like this, he's swarmed.
And he comes from a very rough town, Stockton, and I think fighting is as natural as breathing to him.
Being a street fighter, you gotta be fearless on the streets, and that's what he is. He's fearless. It's like, go ahead, hit me. I'm gonna hit you harder.
Nick's the hardest working fighter there is. He sets the bar for everybody, I think.
I've never seen boxing like Nick Diaz's. Not to mention, he's a black belt on the ground in jiu-jitsu.
Get the opponent's mind a little stirred up by constantly insulting him while you're fighting him. Very smart thing to do.
Freaking Gogo Plata against Takanori Gomi.
I never saw Gogo Plata before at that time. I know what it was, but I never saw it actually in the fight happening, and he pulled it off. I go, dude, this is great.
It was snap shut, and that fight was over.
Número 44. Ex-campeão peso pesado que com suas habilidades de trocação se manteve no topo de uma categoria por mais de 15 anos.
Andrei Arlovski, the big battle Russian, the pit bull.
He's fighting for almost 20 years now, and he's still winning.
Back in the day when I was just a kid, I remember the Andrei Arlovski character, you know, the long hair, the scarred up eyebrows, the fangs.
He had this massive chest hair, and he had good footwork, and his shoulders rolled very good. He threw great combinations on the paddle work. He would roll.
Andre started bringing the idea of this athletic striker to come into MMA.
Arlovski takes him down. Wow, it's over already.
That fight with Brown, it only went one round, but it was one of the most riveting rounds in the history of the UFC.
He really laid on the gas when he needed to, and he capitalized at a moment that I made a mistake.
Beautiful uppercut!
Andrei Arlovski will go down as one of the finest heavyweights in mixed martial arts history.
Número 43. Faixa preta de taekwondo e jiu-jitsu que capturou os cinturões peso leve do WEC e do UFC.
Vincent Henderson is an absolute legend of this sport.
He laid his mark from the WEC to the UFC. He was the first guy from the WEC to come take that title over.
Ben Henderson is just one of those super athletic guys, nice as can be, but when he comes in the fight, he's got a swagger, he's got an attitude.
My most memorable experience with him was probably our first fight, you know, just back and forth 5 rounds. It was my first 5-round fight, and some say I won, he obviously won.
Me and Ben had some good fights together. I'm going all the way back to the WEC days. The thing that makes Ben great is his ability not to quit. I had this guy in some deep submissions, and he just rolls out of it like nothing happened.
We've seen that before from Ben Henderson. The guy is absolutely gumpy.
Very well-rounded guy, super relaxed in there. Had great conditioning. He's kind of an unorthodox striker, I'd say. You know, not very typical.
Oh, he hurt him again.
He rocked me pretty good in the fight in the first rounds with both of them. He had a lot of power, and that's something that you have to really be worried about.
Número 42. O rosto do MMA inglês, o vencedor da 3ª temporada do The Ultimate Fighter, que realizou seu sonho de ser campeão do UFC quase uma década após pisar no octógono pela primeira vez.
Michael Bisping is an intense, in-your-face fighter who brings a level of volume and technique.
Just teeing away is Michael Bisping.
He has been a pioneer of the sport in England and really someone who has always embraced the villain role in MMA. With that, has brought a lot of entertainment over the years.
Hey, I'm going nowhere, and you better believe that.
His longevity, it speaks for itself. He's got a mouth and a half on him.
I'm going to beat Luke Rockhold, and then I'm taking the title.
He's the guy that needs to draw some emotion out of his opponents, and he's going to look for anything he can to push the buttons.
In the course of history, Michael Bisping ended up having more wins than just about anyone in the history of UFC, and capturing a championship in a fight that people thought he had no chance of winning.
Número 41. Uma personalidade influente e membro fundador da organização japonesa Pancrase, que em sua memorável luta com Royce Gracie no UFC 1, lançou sua renomada carreira.
Ken Shamrock has truly earned the title Master of the Octagon.
Ken Shamrock really was part of that scene that showed MMA to the whole world.
He's in the UFC Hall of Fame. He would actually combine wrestling and submission holds and plus striking all together versus like back then, some guys were just really good at one thing.
He was the forefather pretty much. He was the guy who did the really Japanese style submissions, leg locks.
One of the strongest human beings I've ever touched. He's just raw bone tough and mean.
He was a very imposing guy coming in, you know, very intense.
He definitely wasn't scared of anybody, a great showman also.
I've seen all the press. It's time to step into the octagon, see if Shamrock can't tame Dan the Beast Severn.
Watching him set up against Dan Severn in that super fight, Dan felt like he was forced to take that shot and bang, right into that front choke he went. And once Ken got those pythons wrapped around his neck, it was just a matter of time.
He's a guy that's fought the who's who in MMA at the time, and he's definitely one of the all-time greats.
Número 40. Atleta que participou de 2 Jogos Olímpicos e rapidamente usou seu domínio de wrestling para ter sucesso no MMA, assegurando os cinturões do Strikeforce e do UFC.
Daniel Cormier is one of the best competitors of all time. He had very big heart, good mental, good competition. He keep going, take down people, knock people out.
Daniel Cormier was an Olympic wrestler, and he has evolved over the years to become a complete mixed martial artist.
He uses his wrestling to be able to set up more strikes and be able to dominate guys and wear guys out.
Very creative and using his tools, very athletic in his striking. He's just a winner.
When the lights are on, it's when he goes out there and he shows what he has. And that's the type of fighter that he is. When it's put on the line, he goes out there and produces.
He's piled up a ton of massive wins in his career. Alexander Gustafsson, Anthony Rumble Johnson,
He's gonna tap.
Roy Nelson, Frank Mir.
The slam he had against Josh Barnett, taking a 260-pound man and launching him over his head the way he did. Dan Henderson just threw Dan Henderson in the air like he was a feather.
And he'll break you mentally and physically. He has that never say die attitude also. And he'll just grind you.
Número 39. Wrestler japonês que tem vitórias sobre 7 campeões do UFC e 4 grandes vitórias sobre membros da família Gracie.
Sakuraba is the man. Sakuraba is the guy who comes up with the crazy, with the Mongolian judo chop. And then in the middle comes a punch. Hey, he makes it work.
Sakuraba is just magic. You know, he walks into that arena, it's like Elvis.
Sliding side kick. Just an abundance of personality and fought against some of the very best fighters of his era, including getting victories over amazing fighters like Vitor Belfort and Renzo Gracie.
Backing Renzo up. His signature win was when he dislocated the elbow of one of my heroes, Renzo Gracie, and it showed the kind of level that he was at.
I saw him when there was a UFC in Japan and he fought Silveira.
The fight stopped far too soon while he was in on a single leg, protested to the point that he refused to leave the ring.
Sakuraba is distraught.
He stood in the cage and he said, now, verdict is going to be overturned.
Sure enough, later on that night, him and Conan went back at it to see who really was the better man.
Armbar, that's it. Sakuraba taps out Conan Silveira.
'Silveira. It was a really pivotal moment in the Japanese MMA scene.
40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40. 40.
Número 38, superastro irlandês que entrou para a história do UFC com 7 vitórias consecutivas para vencer o cinturão peso-pena.
Conor McGregor has done some impressive things in a very short time in our sport.
Now, Conor McGregor has an insane following, like a pop star or something, you know?
He's wearing suits, and he's brought class back into it. He's the best thing that's happened to this sport, you know, since Don Fry.
I own this town. I own Rio de Janeiro.
You have this fighter who says all the right things, and not only that, he goes out, he delivers. This guy is on another level.
Conor relaxed and smiling. Oh!
And when he knocked Aldo out, that was amazing.
One punch, clean on the chin, and walks away with a strap. That's impressive.
He walked that octagon like he'd already won the fight, and Conor knocked him out that quick. Took the belt and lived up to everything that he had predicted at that time. We have never seen that before.
His fight against Diaz was a great fight, man.
For anybody that is a featherweight champion to go up and even challenge themselves at welterweight is just unbelievable.
This guy is a superstar. We've seen guys who can promote. We've seen guys who can talk. We just hadn't seen a guy who could back it all up with such style and ferocity.
He is a huge part of combat sports history. When we look back on this 20, 30 years from now, the Conor McGregor era will be something truly special.
Número 37, o primeiro wrestler de nível mundial a entrar no UFC, que somou mais de 100 vitórias no MMA em sua renomada carreira.
Dan Severn's the second best man I know, first being my dad. Dan literally gave me the shirt off his back.
Again, if you see it steps up to guard.
Dan Severn, unbelievable. 3 times UFC champion.
He is an absolute American hero. He was one of my absolute favorite fighters when I was watching the UFC way back in the day.
He doesn't look that big, but he's bigger than he looks. He's a dense guy. There's a lot of him. He hurts on top. It's not fun.
Dan Severn fought in an epic war against Royce Gracie that went longer than anybody had ever predicted an MMA fight to go back in those days, to the point that a lot of people's pay-per-view feeds had actually shut off, and people didn't know who had won that bout.
Dan Severn helped legitimize the sport of MMA as nobody else could. A world champion in wrestling, national champion in judo several times, an alternate on the Olympic team in '84 in both Greco and freestyle. I mean, he was a true athlete.
Número 36, wrestler All-American que fez parte da primeira divisão 2 vezes, que com seu nocaute sobre lendário campeão em 2013, provou ser dos melhores pesos médios de todos os tempos.
Chris Weidman was the man. He's a great fighter. The guy has done things that nobody else has been able to do.
Chris is another one of those fighters that's very humble outside the octagon, but very fierce inside of it.
This guy comes into the UFC with a handful of fights and fights all of his fights on 2 weeks' notice, and he's beating really, really good guys.
He's out, he's out, and it's all over!
The most memorable fight for Chris Weidman is his first win over Anderson Silva. Nobody thought that he was going to do that. Typical Anderson Silva, showboating a little bit, trying to bait Chris into getting frustrated. Chris doesn't fall for it, hits him with that left hook, he goes down. And jaws drop, not just in the arena, but worldwide.
This was a guy who went out there and beat the legendary Anderson Silva not once, but twice.
Anderson hurt his leg when the kick was checked, and Weidman remains the champion.
He's a legend already, beating, to me, the best of all time.
Número 35, o campeão de wrestling da NCAA de 1,90 m, que se tornou astro das bilheterias e venceu o cinturão do UFC em sua 4ª luta de MMA.
I remember seeing Brock Lesnar enter into MMA and thinking, I don't know what to expect, but I know it's gonna be big.
He always had my respect as a wrestler, but as an MMA fighter, I think the jury was still out.
When Brock came into the UFC, I knew he was going to be a force. That guy is mentally tough. Brock and I were maybe so dumb we didn't think somebody could be better than us or should be better than us. So we went in there with that attitude.
The guy looks like he was definitely built for fighting or taking down woolly mammoths.
He came in, took the division by storm.
Randy got clipped with one of those big mitts and got knocked silly.
Brock definitely proved his worth. He was dedicated to the sport. He trained with the right people, and he became a champion.
Número 34, peso pesado brasileiro, artista de nocautes, que é dono da mais longa sequência de vitórias da história da categoria.
Junior Dos Santos is the smiling knockout artist. So friendly and happy and such a nice guy, and was the best heavyweight in the world.
That guy's got dynamite in his hands.
Oh, he got caught with the left!
Doesn't stop, he keeps coming forward. And, when I fought him, it was hell for him because it was hell for me for 25 minutes.
He's just got God-given power.
Oh! Devastating left hook!
He hits you with something and you're gonna feel it.
For a heavyweight, his hand speed is remarkable. So he's got hand speed, foot speed.
He just has really good boxing, and he moves his feet with his boxing, and he's hard to take down.
As my fourth knockout in my career, he knocked down me like in just 1 minute.
And Mark Hunt, who he finished in the 3rd round with a spinning back kick to the head.
Junior Dos Santos by knockout!
Junior Dos Santos is still the man who owns the most watched knockout in UFC history.
Big shot!
When Junior hit Kane with that punch, I could not understand what was happening because to me, Kane was invincible.
It is all over! Junior Dos Santos!
Fighting against him 3 times, you feel the power. A guy that just keeps going forward. So you can tell that this guy is special as far as the power that he has in his hands.
Had every right to be a champion, and he's just tough.
Número 33, simpático policial do estado da Geórgia, que teve seu início no UFC na primeira temporada do The Ultimate Fighter.
Force is one of those guys, he's going to throw punches at you. He can take a punch. Whoever can take the most punches is going to be standing at the end.
The first Ultimate Fighter, his final battle against Stephan Bonnar.
Obviously, that fight with Stephan Bonnar is the reason why half the fans we have today are following the sport.
The crowd in here is just on its feet. Toe-to-toe they go. Oh, and a left kick, right hand by Bonnar. Ruff gets the fence, he gets it down.
Forrest is fun to watch. He's a very well-rounded fighter and very, very tough.
He got better as things got further along. He starts beating great names, big names like Tito Ortiz.
In 2008, when he beat Rampage for the light heavyweight championship, did he just beat Rampage Jackson?
One of the great things about athletics is that the harder you train, the better the opportunities are. No one trains harder.
He was having fun and just going out there and enjoying yourself while you're having a fight.
His personality comes out.
I never said I was that good or that pretty, but baby, I have to make it exciting, What more can you ask for?
Not a guy that talks smack, but he's just a funny guy that is a little strange as well, but strange in a good way.
Número 32, campeão peso pesado da 2ª temporada do The Ultimate Fighter, que se tornou dos melhores pesos meio pesados de todos os tempos.
Sugar Rashad Evans.
His speed is incredible.
He's a great wrestler who came with a devastating knockout power.
The guy could take down anybody he put his mind to. He's real smooth in the cage whenever he fights. You never see him get too tense and too uptight.
He's had some big wins. I think a big fight that stands out for me with Rashad is the Sean Salmon fight.
Everybody's saying, he can't kick no white. Bam! First head kick he threw, knocked somebody out.
The moment he knocked out Chuck Liddell,
I'll never forget that. I don't think any UFC fan will forget that.
When somebody's fighting Chuck, if anyone's going to get knocked out, it would be Chuck's opponent, and he just got caught with a perfect punch and got knocked silly.
Just an epic, historic moment in the sport.
He can catch you. You gotta be careful with him anytime you fight him because he's got power.
Not a single person can sit there and say that that man wasn't legit.
He'll always go down as a legend in the UFC.
Número 31. O primeiro campeão peso meio médio do UFC, que não só defendeu seu cinturão 4 vezes, como criou uma equipe que formou mais 4 campeões do UFC.
The original Croatian sensation. That's Pat Miletic.
Miletic again connects.
You just knew that every time he walked in there, he was going to crush the guy that was sitting in front of him.
Miletic is so dominant with the hands.
Pat Miletic defended his UFC welterweight belt 4 times.
Miletic will retain his title.
Must be that Croatian blood, I guess that's how we do it.
He was boxing back in the day. He was wrestling back in the day. He was doing jiu-jitsu back in the day. And he was the first guy who had a legit team.
McCarthy watching, and there's the tap.
At the time, there's only 5 weight classes being contested, and I think 4 of the champs were out of the Miletic fighting system, all underneath Pat.
He just wanted to be the best.
Oh, my goodness! It is over! A high kick by Miletic!
He wanted to learn the best technique, and he wanted to be in the best shape. You put those two together, and you're going to have champion.
One of the first guys who tied everything together. You know, that's why he's in the Hall of Fame.
No próximo UFC 200 melhores lutadores de todos os tempos, chegaremos mais próximo do número 1 ao apresentar do número 30 ao 11. Os melhores 30 lutadores entram em cena, incluindo The Answer, The Ex-Murderer, The Huntington Beach Bad Boy, The Dragon e mais. Este é o UFC 200 melhores lutadores de todos os tempos.